Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a fantastic week. I know that I am. And if you're brand new here, and this happens to be the very first video that you've watched in this series, I'm using an intermediate marathon training program by Garmin to help me prepare to run the Boston Marathon. And on today's video, I'm going to be recapping or just giving a summary of week number 14 of that 16-week program. Now, in week 14, we are on the taper side of things, but this is a really gentle taper. And so we've, crested that mountain. And then last week we ran a few less miles. And this week we're running a few less miles, or ran a few less miles than we did last week. So I think you kind of get the picture. Now, I ran 4 different times. I did 2 easy run, and then I did an interval session, and then I did a long run. In total, I wrote this down, 39.28 miles. So again, a few less miles than what you saw last week's video. And I did all of those miles in the Nike Alpha Fly version 1. So this is the pair of shoes that I ran all week. There's a reason that I ran all 4 different workouts in these shoes, and that's because I just want to get back accustomed to wearing them, because I had been running a lot in the Adidas Adios Pro 3s. So I hadn't had these on my feet that much recently, and I wanted to get a better flavor for them and just get, accustomed to running in these again. Now this pair happens to have over 300 miles on them, so they're a good training shoe, but they've lost a little luster over the last 300 miles. And I am going to do a durability video about the version 1 of the Alpha Flies, and I'm going to put a little bit of a twist on it. Because I have over 300 miles on these, I thought it would be fun to do maybe a before and after video. And we'll not just talk about durability, but all of the changes that I've seen in these shoes since I first ran in them. And I'm going to be using this pair. Now this is the same shoe, only I've got about 35 miles on these. This is the pair that I ran the Detroit Marathon in, and I haven't really run in them much since that point. And then of course this is the pair that I have 300 miles on. So we're going to do kind of that before and after, 300 versus 30 versus 300 miles. So I think it should be a pretty fun video. Hopefully you guys will have an opportunity to check it out, especially if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about the Alpha Fly. Also this week, I did some testing of some compression gear. Now this is by a company called Sumarpo, and you'll see that video coming out here real soon. And you'll see some of the run footage of me actually wearing that gear today as we talk about some of the different workouts that I completed. But so anyway, we'll talk more about that in an upcoming video where I'll review that gear and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so let's just get into today's video. To help me with that, I'm going to connect.garmin.com, and I'm going to go scroll all the way over to the left-hand side of the screen. I'm going to where it says all activities, and let's see, so I click on activities, all, and here you can see all the different things that were completed for week number 14, but I'm really only interested in sharing the run data. There's not much to see with the yoga things that I was doing for the week. And the first run activity this week was on March the 29th. The week actually started on the 28th, but they didn't have me run that on the 28th because I did a long run the day before, a day of rest, which I did a little bit of yoga. And then the first run is an easy run on the 29th. So let's just go ahead and click on that and see it out for my easy run. It's going to be about 45 minutes with 10 minutes to cool down. And what I plan to do today is just run by feel. So once I start my watch, I'm not going to look at it again until I finish up with the run. The whole idea is to try to get a little bit better practice, not relying so much on my watch, but relying on the feel of the pace, because I'm not going to have a pace group to run with. I'm just going to have to do it all on my own, and I don't want to have to keep checking my watch time and time again. I just want to be able to know what my race pace is, know how that feels, and to be able to maintain that pace for the entire marathon. So that's the plan for today. Let's see how it goes. And as it comes up, you can see that I went 7.2 miles in total, and you can see from the map here that I ran that around my town. And I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom because that's really where all of the data sits, and I do think they do a good job in summarizing all of that for us. So again, 7.2 miles has a tempo effect. My heart rate, 149 beats per minute. I'd really hoped by this point that my average heart rate on a run like this would be lower than it is, but I'm not overly concerned because, as you'll see in some of the later workouts, even some of the speed work, my heart rate doesn't change that much. So, if it stays consistently around, 140 to, 152, 153, somewhere in that ballpark, I'm okay with that. All right, so in total, the workout I went 57, almost 58 minutes, 8:02 mile pace on average. My best pace was a 6:51. I'm sure I was probably going downhill. I mentioned that many times before, that where I run, there's quite a few rolling types of hills. 189 steps per minute. I like that. If I can stick around at 189 steps per minute, on marathon day, I should do just fine. My ground contact time between my left and my right was pretty even for the most part, 50.9 versus 49.1%. Not much more to see with an easy run, so I'm going to back up here, and we're just going to go right to the intervals. And to help explain the intervals a little bit, I'm just going to kick it back to myself, and then we'll come back and we'll revisit the data that's here on connect.garmin.com. Hey everybody, so I'm down at my local state park. I'm going to be doing a little bit of interval work today. The format is to warm up for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to try to run at threshold for 8 minutes, about a minute and a half to recover, and then I'll just repeat that cycle 4 different times. So 4 8-minute interval sessions at threshold is on tap for today, and then I'll end the workout with 10 minutes to cool down. One of the things I like about coming out to the state park here is there are some basically rolling hills. They're not super steep, but I think it's going to be enough for me to be able to get a flavor of what it's going to be like come Boston when you start the race out running downhill. So one of the things I'm really going to be paying attention to is when I'm on those downhill stretches, just trying to maintain a solid pace and not necessarily trying to overdo it. I'm not really paying attention to my watch all that much because I'm trying to get more and more accustomed to running based on feel of the pace rather than constantly, checking my watch to see what my pace is. So that's the plan. I'm going to go get to it. All right, let's get it done. Okay, so let's check out the data. I'm going to click on the intervals, and here you can see I went 8.12 miles, so a little over an hour. And we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see that it had an effect of impacting my VO2 max. Always like to see that, highly impacting. 153 beats per minute on average. So again, that's not that much higher than what it was for an easy run. So there's one thing I can say about my heart rate. It's pretty steady. Yeah, and it doesn't seem to matter what pace I'm running these days. All right, let's click on over here. 7:34 minute mile pace on average. 6:12 was my best pace. 190 steps per minute. That would be perfect. That would be ideal for race day if I could keep my legs turning over. And 1.12 meters in stride length. Skewing a little bit on my left over my right in terms of average ground contact. And I'm going to scroll up just a tad so I can click on intervals because we did run intervals on this session. And I'm going to click on run so we can just isolate the interval workout times themselves. So here we were running 8-minute intervals. And the first one, I ran a 6:53 minute mile pace, then 6:50, 6:50, and then 6:59. And, for the most part, I'm okay with that. I would have liked to have seen that to be a little bit faster, but for me, threshold does range normally between that 6:50 and 7-minute mile pace. So, oh my goodness, my quads are hurting. I need to kind of stretch them out here just a little bit. The pace probably doesn't reflect the effort. It was kind of tough going today, to be honest. I need to squat down here a little bit, take some tension off. Oh God, that feels good. Can't wait to get home and do some foam rolling with Bella. She's my little coach. All right, so I better go get to it. Super thirsty, like an idiot. I forgot my water bottle at home. I don't know what I was thinking. Just excited to get out here, I guess. It's nice to see the sun shining. It's still below freezing. It was 29 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be about what? -1, -2 degrees Celsius, something like that. So I'm all layered up, way more than I will be in Boston. That's for sure, except for the corral. In fact, I have to go in and do a little shopping to pick up some things for the corral. I've got a coat that I can take, so I picked that up when I picked up my corral coat for the Detroit Marathon. So I picked up 2 just because they were a bargain. Got it for a couple dollars at Volunteers of America, which is kind of like Goodwill in my area. Only it benefits veterans. But anyway, I need pants, unless I go through my closet and find some just old raggedy ones. But I wouldn't mind picking up a decent pair because they do donate these things. And, I can get some really good bargains on some clothes that are like new oftentimes. So that's kind of what I plan to do, is just to head to Volunteers of America sometime here, probably this week, and look for some tearaway pants or some warm-up sweatpants, something like that, that's easy to slip on and easy to slip off. All right, that's enough about that today. I am going to get home. Oh, God, I'd love to see the sunshine. It just doesn't happen all that often here anymore. So, all right, I'm going to go get to it. So let's click on the easy run, which was just a couple days ago. And so I did have, here's something I do want to make note of. So I did have 2 days of rest between running those intervals and then going out and doing an easy run. And that makes a world of difference, just having that couple of days, because my legs felt pretty good when I was out there. And that's something that, they haven't felt that fresh in a while. So I went a total of 7.04 miles, and the fact that I was feeling pretty good, my legs were fresh, is reflected in the average pace, a 7:20 mile pace. That's pretty good for me, even if it was an easy run. And so one of the things I was really working on this week is running more by effort, perceived effort, than I was necessarily trying to obtain any kind of pace. And it held true for the long run as well. And the reason that I'm moving toward that these last few weeks is because when I get to Boston, I'm honestly, I'm not going to be paying that close of attention to what my Garmin says. What I'm going to be paying attention to is what my body's telling me. And I'm going to let the pace find me. I'm going to be running at a perceived effort. And when I did the long run, and we'll talk about that here more in a minute, I think that really kind of comes through. And I think when we take a look at that data, you'll see what I mean. All right, so let's scroll down now before I get too far ahead of myself, and we'll take a look at the data from this easy run. It does say that I have a threshold effect, and that's because I was turning my legs over pretty fast, highly impacting, again, 153 beats per minute on average. So it didn't seem to matter. That's not much different than what it has been for the other workouts. So again, I seem to hover right around that 150, low 150s, regardless of what I'm doing. 7:20 mile pace on average. 6:39 was my best pace during that run. 192 steps per minute. So that's what it takes for me. That's how fast I need to turn my legs over if I want to, pick up the pace for me. So again, though, my contact time between my left and my right was really pretty skewed here. More than it has been, I think, in a while. 51.1%. on the one side and 48.9%. Still not terrible, but I'd like it to be 50-50. Okay, so let's click back. Now let's take a deeper dive into that long run that I was just talking about here a second ago. Hey everybody, so it is Monday, which means it's my long run. So while Monday is the start of the week for most people, it's the end of the week in terms of my training. So I'm going to go out for 2 hours and 10 minutes. The first hour, I'm going to run at an easy pace. And then the second hour, I'm going to try to get up to my marathon pace. And for me, right now, my marathon goal pace is 7:40 mile. I don't know, that might be biting off a little more than I can chew, but I'm going to give it a try. There's nothing wrong with training to that, and then I can adjust my expectations come race day depending on how I'm feeling. I got my gels, and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go get this one done. All right. All right, now as I click on it and it comes up, you're going to see I went 16.92 miles. So it's still a long run. And, even though, I'm into the taper, like I said, it's a gradual taper. So 16.92 miles isn't anything necessarily to sneeze at. And the format, according to Garmin, was for me to run an easy pace the first hour and then the second hour to be running my marathon pace. But what I ended up doing, and I did it right from the start, was to basically run by effort. So whatever the perceived effort was that I felt was going to be my marathon, kind of that marathon pace, is what I tried to run, regardless if I was going downhill or going uphill. And there was plenty of rolling hills that I had to get through. And we'll take a closer look at that too here in a second. But that'll be a different. I'm going to pull that up off my phone because I think it's a little bit easier to look at. But I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And here you can see it, a tempo effect. Anytime that I'm out there for a couple hours, it always seems to say overreaching. So I'm not over concerned about that. 148 beats per minute. So I think that was even a little less than the 8-minute mile pace that I was running for on my easy run at the first part of the week. So go figure. I'm okay with that. Elevation, total ascent, 376 feet, and total descent, 355 feet. So it's kind of a net effect of going uphill. 742 again was my average pace. My best pace was a 646. 188 steps per minute, pretty solid there, with a max of 199 steps per minute. So I wasn't necessarily having a huge differential between my average and my max, but you can bet that I was going downhill at some point when I hit that 199 steps per minute. And I was really practicing not laying on the brakes on those downhills, but not trying to overdo it either. So just trying to take advantage of the gravity of the hill without overdoing it. And that's a little easier said than done, because I was trying to really lean into that downhill without overstriding, trying to keep my feet underneath me, just keep my feet turned over without overexerting myself. So that was the goal. And that's pretty much it for that long run. Whew, boy. So I ended up pretty much running marathon pace for the entire 2 hours. I haven't really looked at the stats yet, but that's kind of what I'm thinking it's going to look like. So I didn't follow the workout exactly as intended, but I feel like I put forth a pretty decent effort. You know, I think I have 300 miles in the original Alpha Fly that I wore today. I think today I might have rolled the 300 mile mark on the odometer. So that's a shoe that I want to talk a little bit more about, maybe in a separate video. My voice is just a little bit hoarse. This was probably, well, it definitely was the last of the long runs before Boston. Went just a little shy of 17 miles. I think it was 16.92 when I looked at my watch. Next week for the long run, we'll probably be closer to that, 8-10 mile mark, something like that. So this was definitely the last of those long runs, before race day. So, all right, I'm going to go in and stretch out and shower and do all that kind of good stuff. So we'll catch you back here in a few minutes. Okay, so what I thought I would do, and I thought would be interesting to look at, is I'm going to pull that down here for a second, is to overlay my pace with the elevation grade. So for that, I'm going to have to go to my phone. So I'm going to move away from my computer, and I'm going to pull that graphic up for you here now. Oh, but before I put that graphic up on the screen, to give you an idea of the variation in my mile splits, my fastest mile was a 7:13, and my slowest mile was a 7:55 minute mile. So you can see there was a pretty huge variation there. And now when I put my pace up on the screen graphically, you can see that it looks a bit like a roller coaster. Now overlaying the landscape, so putting the elevation up on the screen over the top of the pace, you can see that they match almost identically. So while I was trying to run to a perceived effort, keeping the effort the same, whether I was running uphill, which is obviously going to take a little bit more out of you than running downhill, my effort seemed to be the same, but my paces had a pretty big variation in them. And I suspect that Boston's going to be very similar. So running downhill, obviously I'm going to be going a little bit faster, but my perceived effort's going to be easier than it is when I'm going to be running uphill, especially those Newton hills towards the end of the race. So it was good practice for me, and I'm going to continue to do that for the last couple of weeks for what few workouts that we have left. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it for you. As always, run tall, run strong, be kind to one another. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Run Tall with Tim.